I'll do a share screen. So we're on part 3 of the prospecting class. So it's actually called phone prospecting, but it's really just prospecting, right? Because it doesn't matter how we're doing it, if we're doing it in person or on the phone, right? It's prospecting. So today we're going to talk about the advanced skills that you need. So look through the class materials. You can even watch the 2 previous recordings if you want to, that show, talk about the other parts that we did. And I broke this down into 3 parts so that we could really deep dive in an hour of going over exactly what are those things. So we talked about, like, previous classes were, who do I call, right? What do I say? How do I set myself up for success in my station, my work area, all of that. So definitely go back and check out the recordings if you have a couple hours to do that. And then check out the class, the materials. There's a lot of scripts in there, a lot of specific, very tangible things for you guys to do. Okay. So today we're going to talk about what are the advanced skills that I need to have. So 5 steps for success. So scheduling, right? We all live by a calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it's not getting done, right? I know that about myself. And in fact, I use my calendar all the time for even just simple things like buy stamps, right? So reminding myself of, like, just little things in life that I need to take care of. And so making sure it's in your schedule. How do we handle objections? So I want to kind of go off course right now just to talk about something that came up in a Workman. Every Friday, Workman does a call with all of us coaches and training for us. And so something that came up was 6 months ago, how many objections did we have in real estate? You had appraisal waivers, right? An objection that Sandra, I don't have the cash to come in if it has a low appraisal, right? I can't do this appraisal gap. I don't want to waive my inspections, right? The house needs work, but the seller's not going to do any concessions. I might be competing with 20, 30, 40 other offers. I can't afford to go 25 or 50,000 over asking, right? So those are just a few of the objections that were happening. Let alone, like, maybe I pay the seller's concessions, right? We had all these things happening 6+ months ago. What are the objections today? What are they?
Interest rate.
The rates are too high.
Okay, what else? There's one more I'm looking for.
One more, yeah, we said it yesterday. What is this?
Nate said it in the gas program yesterday, right?
Yeah, he just.
About concessions or something?
Nope, I'm waiting for the market to plummet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Right?
Yeah.
So those are our 2 objections that we have right now. And we know if we show people history, we know that the market's not going to plummet, right? Because we have statistic data that says that that's not what's happening. In addition to that, 4 out of 10 homes in the United States are currently owned free and clear. Those homes will never, Jan, go to foreclosure, right? Because they're owned free and clear. And nobody should be going to foreclosure right now, because if you've owned your house for 2 years, according to what Tina shared with us last week, you've got 32% equity in your home year over year, right? Or over the last 2 years. If you've been in your house for 5 years, what was it, 76% is what she said? So there's a ton of equity in homes. No one should be going to foreclosure right now. So we can overcome that objection, right? Because that's just people buying into sensationalized headlines. And interest rates, we can overcome that too, right? Because we can buy the rate down. And if all of the analysts that I follow are right, and of course we don't have a crystal ball, by spring, even if rates drop a little bit, and by the way, Scott, 7 to 8% is normal. We're in a normal market. Mm-hmm. We need to stop saying otherwise, right? And yesterday we were in a investor meeting, and 3 times the lady running it said it's a hard market. And on the 3rd one, I said, will you stop saying that? Stop saying that, right? It's not a hard market. What we just came out of, Jan, that was hard. I've never had to write 7 offers for 1 buyer to get something to stick. Okay, it's not because I'm that great of a negotiator, pretty good, but you get what I'm saying, right? This last 3 years has been hard. Last 3 years has been the unprecedented market. We're back in a normal market. Okay. So 2 objections, we can overcome those, right? The other 6 months ago, we had a laundry list. Those were really hard to overcome, right? Yet 6.2 million people bought a home in 2020, the most homes that had ever sold in history, even during the boom. Right? We sold more houses. Okay. So go back to my slide. So becoming your best, right? And then looking forward, and then our attitude. Attitude is so freaking important right now, you guys. If you listen to the news, you pay attention to the headlines, you hang out with the person at the water cooler who says it's a hard market, then it's going to be hard. right? What you believe is going to be true for you. Or you can go out and have a rocking year because there's 20,000 homes in the market. We should be shouting from the rooftops to every person we know, right? That this is a fantastic time to be a homeowner. I took this screenshot of someone I follow on Facebook. I've been meaning to share it on my social media. I just keep forgetting to do it, but let me get to my screenshots. Where are they? So she said, and this lady, she's was very influential in my life. She said, my most consistent advice I give realtors: the market lives in your head, not in the marketplace. All right? Market lives in your head, and lead gen is imperative and lead follow-up is critical. So have we been farming or prospecting for buyers the last 3 years? No, none of us wanted to work with buyers because the market was what?
Insane.
So here we are, right? There's 20,000 homes in the market. I would challenge all of you, go preview. Go just pull up your neighborhood. Go look at the house on the market. Go check out every new build out there. I used to keep a spreadsheet of all the new builds, the specs that they had, the models that they had, the incentives that they had. Builders are giving away the farm right now because why? They have to, right? They got inventory. And it's the fourth quarter. They want to move inventory, right? Whatever their fiscal year is, they want to move inventory because they don't want their stocks to go down on Wall Street, right? They don't want to be stuck with a glut of inventory, just like new cars, right? They always do these great incentives at the end of the year because they want to make room for the 2023 models that are coming on, right? Same thing right now. And this is a great time. You can negotiate with the builders, right? Negotiate with them, get things for your buyers, get the epoxy garage flooring, or get the coach lights, like simple things like that are easy for a builder to throw in. Okay. All right. That was my little rant. Sorry. Scheduling. I'm on my second class today, so who knows what's going to happen in this class. So if it's not on our calendar, it doesn't happen, right? I think we all agree on that. So we want to put prospecting on your phone or in your calendar. If you're new, you should be prospecting 3 hours a day, right? Not all at once, but 3 hours a day. So, because what else you got going on? You're new, right? You need to be prospecting that much. So, and otherwise, at least an hour a day. All of us have been challenged in the gas program to set things for ourselves, right? For the week. I had a little bit of an aha at the meeting. I was not expecting Nate to put us on blast, right? To put our statistics up on the screen. And I found myself two things feeling. One was feeling competitive, that I wanted to be the group with the highest percentage, right? And then I also felt like I was letting the people in my group down. If I don't show up and do what I say I'm going to do, then I'm the one bringing our percentages down. And so what did I do Friday? I busted out my calls. I got them all done on Friday because I was feeling very inspired, motivated, whatever you want to call it. But that really had a shift in my mindset, having, Nate put those statistics up there. So let's keep that in mind, right? So we want to create a successful pipeline of prospects. You guys have heard me say this before. You don't want to get out of bed in the morning and wonder who needs your services. Prospecting should be a big rock when we think about my perfect week or your intentional week. It's something we should not say no to. Because remember, everything you do today, Sandra, affects your business 30 to 45 days from now. And some of you heard Tina last week say that you got 2 weeks left of work and then coast the rest of the month. I disagree with that. So don't take your foot off the gas, right? Because what you do this month will affect whether or not you have a good first quarter, right? So, and I'm all about celebrating the holidays, but we still need to get our work done, right? We still need to show up and do our jobs. And it's too easy to blow it off because we're self-employed. We don't have the man telling us what to do. And so we can go shopping at noon on a Wednesday, right? And that's okay, but make sure that somewhere else in that day, you're still getting your prospecting in, okay? We need to have your schedules, put it in schedule, and then focus, right? Have our focus be entirely on what we're doing. Commitment is the key. And then we want to evaluate what's your effort at the end of your prospecting session. How did it go, right? We talked about this in the previous classes. I want to look at it, scale of 1 to 10, how'd I do, right? What can I do to improve? And then I want to let it go, right? Play this Frozen song, let it go. So then tomorrow when I'm prospecting comes back up, I feel inspired to do it, okay? And then have a specific objection. So we talk about in the journal, 3, 2, 1. I busted out all my 10 calls in one day just because I know myself, and I had the time and I just did it, right? I was feeling motivated to do it. But we talk about the 3, 2, 1. It's just 3 a day. I don't know how many calls you guys have committed to doing, but if you think about, if I did 3 calls a day between gas to gas, Monday to Monday, I would do more than what my commitment was, right? So just think about that. If you did 3 a day, that's a specific objection, right, that we have set. And if your goal is to do 30 calls, then figure out what that number looks like on the 5 days or 6 days a week that you're going to work. Okay. So have a specific objection that we want to accomplish. So when to call. So this is recommending 8 to 12 or 5 to 6. 5 to 6 people, might be commuting in their cars, right? Getting home. I think we live in a little bit different world these days with a lot of people working from home. So I think that time might be more like, 4 to 6, right? And I also think that we have to think about your database. Who are you calling? If you know your database intimately, you know when they're working, right? You know what their schedule is. And so being mindful of that. Wayne Gretzky said that what made him great at playing hockey was he skated to where the puck was going, not where it had been. So you want to make it easy for your people to connect with you and easy for you to connect with them. Okay. Preparation is more important than when you call, right? So your first key is to, and again, we're giving you these times as a guide, but they're not the be all end all. Jen, if you're an afternoon person, that's when you're on your game and you feel the best, then do that, right? The best time to prospect is when you'll do it. But if you really want to aim and have even more success prospecting, here's the suggested times. Okay. This is a great time of year to call. Holidays, right? What do you got going on for the holidays? Wishing them a good holiday. It's an easy call to make. And you don't even have to ask for business. The call will go that way, right? It will go to that what's going on with the market. I've heard the interest rates are crazy, et cetera, et cetera. You guys have heard me say this before. We should be the most popular person at the party. Okay. So be mindful of the prospect before choosing the time to call. So I already said that. Be aware of where they are, what are they doing, what's going on. I feel like 5 to 6, that's like dinner time, right? People preparing for dinner. That's why I want to probably go 4 to 5 instead of 5 to 6. And then, so kind of all of that. So actual times, the day of the calls, I don't think it really matters. I think it's more about like, when are you actually going to do it? Okay. And then the note here says there's no perfect time, right? It's just, when are you going to be successful? What's your best odds of reaching those people? Okay. So handling objections. So people will trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. I was on a call earlier in the week, last week, actually, with a Remax lead that I had gotten 6 months ago. And the guy said to me, well, affordability is a challenge because the prices have gone up so much and now interest rates are high. So I had to educate him that prices have actually come down some and talk to him about a 3-2-1 buy down, which he had never heard of, right? Never even knew that was an option. And so he left that call feeling a little bit more inspired, right? And feeling better about the market because I was able to educate him. So we have to take the time to educate people because people are only seeing the sensationalized headlines. They're not even reading the article. They're just reading the headlines. Have any of you done that? I just did it this morning, right? Read the headline and went, oh, okay. Right. Then I went, oh, I should actually read that. I should actually read the article. Okay. So most realtors want a dialogue that cures the problems that they've created. Communication and communicating with human beings is hard, right? It's hard, especially if we're doing it via text or email, because we can add all kinds of emotions, our own emotions, to what we're reading when that might actually not be what's actually being said. Right. So we want the person on the phone to discover, right, how you're different. So we want to be a leader, which we can provide facts and statistics that trump the headlines. That's being a leader, right? That's being a consultant. That's showing up and caring about what's in their best interest. Okay. Move beyond opinions. That's, again, providing facts and statistics. Become the strategic person. So being logical. Track your results. So we want to be accountable. That's what the whole GAS program is all about, right? Is helping us be accountable. Improve your results. We want to be intentional. So knowing what I want to accomplish today and going out and actually doing it. And then we want to cause our results. So being proactive. So to be proactive means to produce action, right? To actually do it. Okay. So I'm going to take out the word seller. So people work with those they know, like, and trust, right? And we say that there's another one that says that you should know what you're doing, but that one's optional. Now I'm being cheeky. I don't want it to be optional, but you get where I'm going. If they know you, like you, and trust you, you can not know what you're doing, and that's okay because they know you, like you, and trust you, right? And so don't be worried about that, especially if you're new. We new people shy away from their best friends because they, are worried that they don't know what they're doing. That's okay. Your best friend knows you, likes you, and trusts you. Okay. And you're surrounded by amazing people in our industry, and you can pick up the phone and call any of them and they're going to help you. Right. And our broker is like the best thing since the slice of bread, right? She's amazing. So our dispositions, we want to be confident, right? We want to be confident, but not cocky, right? We want to be open to suggestions. Sometimes there are things that we just don't know, right? We don't know. And so we want to be open to those suggestions. Be aware. We want to be proactive, unique. Each of you brings something, skill set from a previous life that's unique, that becomes part of your value proposition that people will be attracted to. So don't be afraid to let your uniqueness be seen. Likable, right? Organized. We want to be honest. That's part of our code of conduct. Approachable. We've all been in a situation where someone just is not approachable, right? They just are meh. They don't like you just feel like they don't even like their job, their life, whatever, right? So if you want to be in sales and be good, you got to be approachable. I had asked Rose Gillen, if you guys hopefully you've all met Rose, she's amazing. But for the last 5 years, I've been asking her, like, what's your secret sauce? What is it that there's something about you that's so unique? And finally, one day she said, well, you just got to treat people like they're your best friend. And if you've ever interacted with Rose, that's exactly what she does, right? She gets up in your space, she hugs you. All of a sudden you're telling her your life story, right? And you're like, what's happening right now? But it's because that's her vibe, right? She treats you like she's known you forever and that you're best friends. And so when we talk about being approachable, think about that, right? We want to be somewhat structured, right? Have your vibe, be intentional. Right now, being intentional is super critical. It goes back to our mindset, right? And we want to be focused, and of course, being passionate. You guys have heard me say this before. There is no better job other than being a rock star, right? And so we get to help people with their primal need of shelter. And that is so, in my opinion, that the home covers so many areas, right? People bring their babies home, right? They have holidays, they do so many things inside their home, and we get to be a part of that. And that's pretty special in my opinion. Okay. So don't take that for granted. So again, I'm taking out the word sellers here. So people are attracted to professionals that they believe can get them results. And you must demonstrate that you possess the knowledge, skills, and disposition to get that done. So we shared at the office meeting in November, right, that the shift, the river of real estate says that 13% of the population is going to move, right? Regardless of what's happening, they have to move. Okay. So when we talk about being intentional, think about that 13% and who in your life, Jan, are those 13%, right, that I want to connect with. Okay. All right, next slide. So objections. So again, people work with those that they know, like, and trust. And so I'm not going to go over this. You guys have scripts for these inside your materials, but how'd you find my number? If you're doing a lot of online, like robo-dialing and that type of thing, that's going to be an objection you have. I already have an appointment with another agent. I got to talk to my spouse, right? I'm going to sell it myself. Love the for sale by owner. Have a class on that. We're going to use the same agent, right? This is an expired property. We're going to relist our property. Will you lower your commission? Don't ever talk commission on the phone, right? My answer to that, Scott, is that's a great question. And before I answer it, I need to know specifically what's going on in your life so that I can tailor my commission structure around what's good for you, right? Works every time. They go, oh, okay, well, that sounds like something I'm getting special, right? Is it special to them? No, it's the same thing I do for everybody. But it sounds cool when I say that I'm going to make it specific for your situation, right? We're going to wait. I think, again, going back to that, that's the second objection we're hearing right now is I'm going to wait to see. Wait and see. Wait and see is the enemy of success, right? So if we wait and see, we don't have a crystal ball. We're all anticipating and hopeful that rates might adjust a little bit in the spring. But what if they don't? What if they go to 10? Is waiting to see, is that good? Right? And here's the thing. They buy now. There's some great deals out there. And if the rates do come down in the spring, guess what? They can refinance. Right? But if they go up, You see what I'm getting at? So wait and see is not a good choice. Okay. And then again, this is an expired script that you're the X number of agent to call me. Okay. We are going into one of the best months for expireds. December 31st is a big expired day. I have a class recorded on that on the YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, expireds are not for the faint of heart. You got to have some thick skin because they're mad, right? Their house sat on the market for X number of months. It didn't sell and they're mad, right? So you got to have some thick skin. So go through the scripts in your guys' materials. Core beliefs. So we spend a lot of time in momentum. Almost every class has core beliefs. And so just take 20 seconds and read through these. Some of you probably already read them just because you've taken momentum classes. A couple that stand out to me. Number one, there's no growth without discomfort, right? All of us feel that. And right now we're in a growth period. What we knew 6 months ago has changed. Scott, you're in a good spot because you're jumping into this right in the middle of the shift, right?
Yep.
Poor
Absolutely.
Jan and Sandra. Well, Sandra's been in the business a minute. Poor Jan, she started in the craziness, and now all of a sudden, what's happening? Right? It's changed.
I just don't know any different. I mean,
that's good. That's good.
yeah, I don't feel like the sky's falling because I don't subscribe. I never subscribed to that in education, that we go to these district meetings. It was like, oh my gosh, we're 14 million behind, in our budgets, and we're going to have to make all these cuts. And, you'd always think the sky's falling, and somehow school started the next year and it all happened, And so I think I just believe the same thing in this. It's like, I just don't listen to all the noise. I'm just going to keep working and
keep working. Exactly. So that's number 2, right? Is I live in a world of abundance. That's one of my personal mantras, right? So I live in a world of abundance. So one thing falls through, next I move on. Okay. Number 8, this should be another mantra that you guys have, is that it's unacceptable for my business to earn 0, or put in your dollar amount, right? What's your financial goal, Sandra, and put that in there. Okay. And then the last one that stands out to me is number 12, is that cost is only the issue in the absence of value. If you sit across the table from a seller and you're talking about X commission, you better be sure that what you're delivering before you talk about commission has enough value. Okay. I like to put pumpkin spice in my coffee during the winter months. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, but they jack the price of pumpkin spice when it gets to be about Halloween. Okay. They raise the price because why? Because people want to buy pumpkin spice, right?
Peak season.
Right. It's the peak season. So they raise the price, and little tiny jar this big, right? It was like $8 last time I went to buy it. And I looked at the ingredients and I'm like, I have all these things in my cabinet right now. I'll make my own pumpkin spice, right? So cost was an issue in the absence of value. And I know that sounds silly over a little thing of pumpkin spice, and $8 is not, it's not like it's my last $8, right? But it was just the principle of it, that I wasn't going to pay that much for a little tiny jar when it was half that price a few weeks prior, right? So think about that when you're sitting across the table from a seller and you're talking about X apples. Are you delivering enough value that they're going to see that they're not going to have an issue with what you're charging them? Okay. So, and I think that we got to get really, so one, I think commissions are going to be less of a dialogue when the market changes, right? When houses are sitting on the market longer, we got to do more to sell them. But now that commission is public information, from the buyer's perspective, we're gonna have to get really good on both sides, right? Of delivering that value, because otherwise you're gonna start getting people wanting to dip into your pocket, right? They see how much you're making and they're like, why are you making that much, Scott? I want some of that, right? I was looking at NAR statistics, and I got to double check this, but if I was reading it correctly, it said that the financial impact of a home sale in Arizona was $127,000. So what does that mean? It means that when a home sells, that's the amount of money that goes back into the economy. So think about that for a second. That's huge. And we're not just talking about us getting paid or title, mortgage, warranties, all that. It's everything. It's the locksmith. It's the trips to Home Depot for paint. It's the pizza delivery guy at the end of the day when you're too tired to cook, right? After packing and unpacking. And so it's all of these different things. And I'm going to look at that again. I'll send it out to you guys because it was a PDF from NAR. I'm gonna look at it again, but I'm pretty sure what I read was $127,000, and that's up from the previous year, which was like 89,000. So it's up. Okay. So the next thing here is our real estate beliefs. So real estate can be a get rich business, right? We get to determine how much money we make or don't make. Real estate is basic. What do we mean by that? Real estate's not basic in the sense of practicing law, right? From the contract perspective, but it is basic in the sense that we are in the people business and relationship business, right? They know me, like me, trust me. Okay. You've heard Nate and I say this, you don't need leads, you need relationships. How many relationships do you have, Sandra? And those relationships turn into conversations around helping them with what? Their primal need of shelter. Okay. I will not convert 100% of the leads I don't generate. Again, we shouldn't be wondering, we get out of bed today, who needs my services? Okay. So these are the real estate beliefs. Again, you've seen these in other classes. Buyer beliefs. Number 2, motivated, qualified, and loyal people buy homes. These are your A leads, right? If they won't meet me, they're not a buyer. So this is basically talking about a buyer consultation. I think we should all be doing buyer consultations. Consumers think that what they see on HGTV is the reality, that they go out, look at 3 houses and get one for $50,000 under asking. You cannot demonstrate your uniqueness and who you are and how you're going to help them without doing a buyer consultation. You can't gain their loyalty and their commitment to you if you don't do a buyer consultation. So that should be the first. I mean, I'll go show one house to somebody to establish and create the relationship, but I'm not taking you out looking at houses without doing a buyer consultation. I can't gain your commitment to me, right? I can't explain the process and why it's important to have me if I don't go through a buyer consultation. And my buyer consultation is real simple. I go through the purchase contract, explaining all the important things in there. I go over agency, I go over market advisory, I go over buyer advisory. If I get the agency signed, now I've talked about fiduciary, right? I've talked about that. And if they happen to, which my buyers don't, because I go over this too, if they happen to go to an open house, someone says that they signed something. Yeah, actually I did, right? I signed the agency. Okay. I go over the purchase contract. I explain all of the scary stuff in there, and that gives them permission to act, right? When we go out and look at houses, right? We're going to go buy a house this weekend. So if I've gone over the purchase contract, I've gone over all of that scary stuff. So it gives them permission and helps them to jump over that next hurdle when we go out into the marketplace. Okay. And I think fiduciary, we got to be talking about that stuff. Really important, right? Talking about the market advisory, giving them the buyer advisory. So that's my presentation. Real simple, right? I've had buyer books in the past to give them. I don't anymore. I could. You can go get one from the title company that they're out there, right? So if you feel like that's something you want to give to a buyer to take home, you certainly could, but you don't need to. Okay. You have to invest that time. And I'll tell you, after an hour of going through all of that, they realize that what they watch on TV is not reality. Right, even though it's called reality TV. And so they realize, Jan, like, oh, I do need this representation. There's a lot of scary stuff that can happen. Okay. So that's my rant about buyer consultations. You have to do them. Okay. So becoming your best requires that you focus. We want to be intentional and proactive. So if you desire to master something, you must be willing to spar. So what is that? Study, practice, action, reinforce. Okay. So you come to these classes, right? But what do you do afterwards? Do you read the scripts and dialogues? Do you commit to those? Do you role play them? Right? That would be practice. And then are we using them? And then do we come back to the class again? Right? Or watch the recording? And so that's the spar part of it. Bruce Lee said that he did not fear a man who knew 10,000 kicks. He feared the man who had practiced one kick 10,000 times. And so when we think about spar, that's really what resonates with me, is that one kick practice over and over and over. Okay. So that's the same thing with your scripts and dialogues. All right. So looking forward. So again, we're going into a really big month for expireds. I get it. Expireds are, to be honest, I've never worked expireds. Don't plan on working expireds, but it is a viable pillar of business. And I coach some people who are very successful at working expireds. You could even, if you don't want to work the current expireds, you could go back a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? Go back into the MLS and look for those expireds. Those people are less mad, right? Because they've gotten over it, but they still might have a need to sell their home, right? They went back 5 years. Maybe it was prior to COVID, whatever, right? I was looking at comps for a house and for the Remax lead I was telling you guys about. And I went back to June to December of 2019. And I found a model match that had sold on the same side of the golf course as him. And it took 82 days for the house to sell. That was just 3 years ago, right? 82 days, Jan, and everyone's freaking out that something's taking more than 82 hours to sell, right? So that was not that long ago, right? So it was very, very interesting to me to see that. Now the house was original from 1986, had the seafoam green carpet and whitewashed cabinets, might have contributed to why it was on the market 82 days, but still, it was very interesting to see that statistic. So expireds, definitely a pillar to work. You just got to have some thick skin. One of the scripts that we say in Momentum in the expired class is that I specialize in homes that should have sold that didn't. That's a great opening pitch to have. For sale by owners. Also a class that I teach on this. These two are together, the expired and for sale by owner. The goal with that is not necessarily to go knock on the door, Sandra, and say, hey, will you list your house with me? The goal is I want to just come look at your house, add you to my secret inventory list. And then you get in the house, right? And you keep showing up and bringing something of value to them. And at some point when their house is failing to sell, they say to you, well, Jan, can you help me? Right? Why hasn't my house sold? Okay. So if you see a for sale by owner, don't just hit the gas and think that they hate realtors and they're crazy. Like, have a plan, right? Go knock on their door and ask, what's your house for sale? How do you get it priced? What are you doing to market it? Right? Help them try to sell their home. And at some point when it's failing, they will ask you, can you help me? Okay. Monetizing lead sources. This is talking about, spending money on leads online. I would say that unless you're growing a team, just focus on your top 50, focus on the people who know you, like you, and trust you. Be present on social media, wear your name badge, go to the grocery store as Nate suggested and hang out in the produce aisle with your name tag on, right? You guys have heard me tell the story that the Safeway by the office, this was years ago when the market was tanking, literally tanking. And I had my hoodie on, a Remax hoodie. And I'm checking out, and the lady sees my name. She sees my shirt. She says, "Oh," she points out. She goes, "Oh, you're in real estate." I'm sorry. And so I had to hold up the line, Sandra, to explain to her why it was still a good time to be a homeowner, right? And so your Remax name does it opens conversations. So definitely wear your stuff, okay? And then continuing to build your database. Social media gives us an insight into people's lives that we didn't have prior to Facebook becoming a thing. And so stalk your people. I know it sounds bad, but stalk them. Go on there, see what's happening in their lives. Look at mutual friends. Who do we know in common? Those are people you could strike up and say, hey, how do you know so-and-so? Right? Use Messenger to connect with them. How do you know each other? And then now what do you think is going to happen next? You're going to friend each other, right? So looking at Facebook almost as a sub database, if you will, right? It's another part of our database that we can learn things about people, right? So just constantly thinking about adding to your database. Who do you know? Who do they know? Who do I need to know? So wrapping up this section here. So we're talking about, let me move this over here. Sorry. So scheduling, it's got to be on your calendar, right? We have to have prospecting in our calendar. Again, 1 to 3 hours a day at minimum. They say in Momentum that a contact's worth $25,000. So if I want to make 100 grand, how many contacts I need to make a day? Right. So, and just being intentional, we have the gas program for a reason. Nate is so committed to our success. Right. And I think show up to those meetings and be intentional, get something out of it. Right. Don't just go through the motions of being there. Or yesterday, there were only 4 people in my group. So people didn't even show up. Right. So, be there. This business is not rocket science. It's all about just who do we know, what are our relationships, and how do we help people with their primal need of shelter, right? Eat objections for breakfast, right? Work through those objections, know what they are, and then have the scripts and dialogues that you can just fire off, right? It's part of your toolkit. You just have that, you have the answers, right? Again, people right now, what are the 2 objections? The market's going to plummet, I'm going to wait, or I can't afford the interest rates. I've already debunked those, right? We already know that we have a way to overcome those. We just have to be clear in how we message that. We pushed out that graphic from Motto Mortgage. I know you might not necessarily work with Motto, even though I would encourage you to give them a shot. that was a great graphic to push out on social media to have some talking points. It's a great graphic to send out to your database, right? To let people know that these are options, okay? And then check your attitude, right? If you believe you can do it, then you can do it, right? Mindset is so huge right now. And then becoming our best. So we want to have a focused effort. So know what my desired outcome is. How many people do I want to connect with today? What's the desired outcome? At the beginning of the year, I kind of just in my head threw out a number. I was like, that'd be nice if I'd make this amount of money in real estate this year. And I did it, right? I did it. And so kind of cool, right? Without really just, I wouldn't say not effort, but I just threw this number out in my head. I didn't even write it down. It was just a thought that rattled around in my head. So imagine if I had written it down, right? And so I'm very inspired by that, looking forward to next year. Like, what can I do? What's the possibility of that, right? So we want to continue to build our database, right? And looking for people we can connect with. So again, use your social media, you guys. Social media is an amazing tool that's out there. All right, so phone call prospecting, the wrap up here. So the first couple classes we talked about confidence. So the way to build our confidence is to practice our scripts and dialogues, okay? And setting ourselves up for success with our space. If you need to have a ritual that you do before your call time. So if that's a song that gets you motivated, reading your core beliefs that we talk about in momentum, whatever that looks like to get you in the space that when I pick up the phone to make calls, I'm gonna hit it out of the ballpark. Understanding the different skills that are required, and then knowing who are we calling. So yesterday after gas, I was like, okay, who are the people I'm going to call off this week? And I started thinking about people in my database because like, who do I know? And I came up with like 15 people just by thinking about like, who am I going to call, right? Who haven't I talked to? And so know who those people are. That's why we have the 3-2-1. And then continuing to build your database. I have a coaching client that every year, and she's in a small market, but doesn't matter. Every year she volunteers around this time of year at the grocery store and bags groceries. She shows up all blinged up, right? So everybody knows that she's a realtor, and she bags groceries. And she gets business from it, right? So I know Nate was being, cheeky, talking about hanging out in the grocery store in the lettuce aisle, but it really does work, right? If we just show up. You guys have heard me talk about the coffee shop prospecting. Go to Starbucks and show up, right? Get a big RE/MAX logo and put it on your laptop, right? Pre-buy some coffees with the barista and have her give out your business card. Do you think they're going to come over, Jan, and thank you for the free cup of coffee? Yeah, they're going to. And then they're going to say, wow, you're with RE/MAX. What's going on with the market? Okay. That's a great thing to do. If you've ever been, I had that happen to me. It was last winter. We were at a restaurant over in the Santan Valley. I took a listing over there and we stopped to have lunch, and dude everybody in the bar bought their lunches. And it was really freaking cool. I've never had that happen to me before. So it was really cool. Went to pay the bill and the waitress was like, nope, he's got it. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So there is something to be said about pre-buying that stuff, right? Go to Starbucks, buy $50 worth of coffee. I wouldn't do it on a Saturday or Sunday, but pick a Wednesday, go in there in the morning when there's high foot traffic, buy some coffees, and people will have conversations with you. Okay. If you got one lead from a $50 investment, is that worth the return on it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. If you got a favorite drinking hole that you go there and hang out, wear your name tag. I've sold lots of houses to bartenders. So be where you are and have that conversation. Okay. So having the right mindset, 13% of the market still moves, you guys. Think in unlimited terms. Dare to say, why not you? Why not you? Right? And then your role is to add value. Okay, so how are we adding value? We're providing shelter. Always have a list of people to call. Role play and practice. So know your scripts and use them. Celebrate your successes. Okay, I was really jacked yesterday to get on the call and be like, I did everything I said I was going to do in the gas program, right? I was excited to share that. So, and I would encourage you guys, get a little text message going with your group, inspire each other, hold each other up, and celebrate your successes. And then your environment, again, go back to the first class, watch the video, talks about setting up your environment, having the right stuff in your space, having that ritual that builds your success habits. So again, if you have a favorite song, listen to it before you make your calls. We want to track everything so that we can measure and we set our standards. Remember that what gets measured gets done, okay? And then have it in your calendar. We want to be logical and clear, believe that you can do it. Okay, that goes back to the very first one of having the right mindset. And then we want to have a focus, right? Your focused effort, and then continuing to build your database. So that is all I have for you guys today. Any questions, comments, any ahas?
I do have a question because it came up several times in regards to the response to commissions. You know, if you lower your commissions, do you have, when you're working with somebody and you're actually now face to face, do you have different approaches? In other words, it's 6% here, or it's a full 3% here, it's 2.5%, and this is what I take out. So you're taking something away from them? Because I've heard that off podcasts that some people will do that. Is that something that you do?
No. I personally don't, but let's hear from the crowd. Does anybody do something like that? Especially Roberta or Debbie, you, Donna, you guys have been in the business a minute.
So one of the things I do is to just say, look, everything that I do is the same for everybody. And I want to give you the same good service that I give everybody else.
Mhm.
So it is 6%, whatever, 6 apples, whatever.
6 apples.
Right.
You know, it is what it is. I'm going to be open and honest here. Don't you like that?
I do.
I made the mistake a long time ago. It's a mistake of discounting my commissions to repeat customers.
Hmm.
So if you come back to me and buy again, now do I benefit? Yeah, because I got them again. And it's one way I get people in the door. They'll say, well, if you discount my commission, I'll hire you. And I'll say, no, you do a deal with me, and when you come back, I'll discount. You know, so I do that. My mistake was, and you do the calculation, do 10 deals in the year, discount yourself by, I don't care how much, 0.5%, 1%, 2%, I don't care how much, do the math and see how much you just left on the table.
Yep.
And then decide for yourself, do I cut my commissions again?
Mhm.
Because my mother used to be my partner. See, Sarah, I told you, there's not a day that goes
Not a
by,
day that
right?
goes by. Toby's always here.
Toby's always here. Toby was a great broker. And she sat me down at the end of the year one year and said, okay, time to do an exercise. Go back and calculate all the commission that you left on the table. And when I did it, it was something like $45,000.
Yeah.
That's
So I don't
chunk
know
of
if that
money.
resonates with anybody else.
Yeah. It's a lot of
but
money.
That kicked my butt.
So, and they're not coming back to you for repeat business because they're getting a discount. They're coming back to you because you did a good
You
job
did your
for them.
job.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So,
Right.
and Scott, you could do tiered packages. You could do, you know, there's one of the coaches in Workman does silver, bronze, silver, gold, right? And gold is like the top, you know, highest commission. And,
Right.
you know, we don't necessarily, Shannon doesn't want us saying 6% or whatever. That's why we were saying apples, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not really supposed to talk about commissions and percentages like that.
Mhm.
You can offer those packages. It's really, you know, it's up to you. Like I have 2 listings right now, same people. I discounted commission on one and not on the other, charged a full what I charge, right? But these are,
Right.
this is like my 8th and 9th transaction I've done with this family, right?
Right.
And so they didn't expect me to. And in fact, I showed the properties and my client was like, oh, that'd be so awesome if you sold them yourself, you'd get all the commission. And so they were excited for me instead of coming to me and saying, well, if you sell them yourself, you're going to discount it, right?
Sure.
And Nate's favorite script to say when people say, well, Joe said he'd do it for this. Some agents will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some agents will.
Either you
And some
sell
of my
value or
response-
you don't.
Right.
Yeah, but some of my response to that too, and I think it was a predominant agent, you know, 10 years ago, and he actually started at a number higher than 6 apples.
Mhm.
He was a
And-
7 or 8
and-
apple guy.
Yep.
Yeah, and he, you know, and I know another agent who would lay out plastic coated pieces of paper, so that wasn't something she was going to leave with the client. And she would say, okay, for this amount, this is what you get. But if you want me to discount, that's fine. I have to take away this one and this one and this one, and she'll pull them away. And that fear of missing out freaks people out, according to her. The other thing that I do, like I had a client in this market who said, yeah, I'll lower my price, but you got to lower your commission. I'm like, why? I need to be raising my commission. And I need to be raising the commission that you're offering to the buyer's agent, because guess what? They're not going to show your house. Because all I'm doing is lowering their desire to show your house. We're having problems selling your house because of the house, not the commission.
Right.
That's not it. And so he didn't understand that, and that's okay.
I think you just
We
have to
took it
get
off.
really good, Scott, at what's your value proposition?
Mhm.
What do you bring to the table? And if you do a good enough job, a couple years ago, I had a listing that on the phone, the lady said to me, no less than 3 times, maybe 5 times, that this house, the commission's not going to pay someone's salary. She was very just like talking about commission. I had to steer her many times in that conversation to not talk about commission on the phone. When I got to the house, she had a really bad experience. I won't go into the details, but she just had a really bad experience selling some homes. And I just let her vent for like an hour about what had happened to her. Seriously, I was there for 2 hours.
Wow.
And she, at the end of my presentation, when I got to commission, she said, "Is that enough?" So this was someone who had many times on the phone talked about commission, but then when I got done and I let her just spew and had empathy with her for what had happened to her, and even apologized that I'm sorry you had that experience, right? That's a terrible experience. And I'm embarrassed as a realtor that happened to you, right? So I had empathy. I affirmed what she was feeling. And then I went through my presentation. When I got to commission, she literally said to me, "Is that enough?" Fortunately, the house never sold. It was overpriced and expired, but that's a story for another day. She did have a really cool collection of incense, which were amazing. But so she was a very cool lady. It was a beautiful house. It just was overpriced. So I think you just have to develop your own thing, Scott, and know what your value proposition is. And there's going to be times you're going to reduce commission. It just is what it is, right? But we don't want you to get in the habit of doing that.
No, and I don't. I've always been in the other arenas that I've sold in. It's always been about value and building that value, because I just was curious. I've heard that some people will do that, and I'm kind of like, well, if you got 3 things, where does everybody go? They go to the middle, so you're going to lose commission, and so I just was curious on that.
Yeah. So I have when you take the listing class with me, we go through there's an objections class and there's a listing class. And we basically talk about how do we overcome the commission objection, right? And if you do a good enough job in the upfront, then, again, cost is only an issue in the absence of value.
Value, correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, I got the dream board class or vision board class on Thursday. Who's coming? Any of you coming?
I will not be there. I apologize.
No
I
worries.
can't be there.
Okay.
I cannot. I'm sorry.
Debbie, you said you're coming. Donna?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Sandra? You can't go? Is that what you're saying? You're
Sorry,
muted.
I got a doctor's appointment. Can't go.
Okay. Sandra, you're muted, so can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm in the same position. I have a doctor appointment
Okay.
downtown, so can't get back.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then our last momentum class is next Tuesday. We're going to be talking about marketing. So if you have not got your marketing plan ready for next year, that's going to be timely. So we're going through the 33 touch program and different ideas. It's a really great class. One of my favorites to teach. So definitely check that out. And then we will be on winter break until January. So that will be our last class. So definitely come join me. And you guys have a great day and stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you later. Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.